Hi everyone, welcome to the channel where we like to go through clear thinking with simple process maps. Today I wanted to start off with a video on how to start a podcast. It's a common theme that people seem to be getting into these days, so just wanted to help clear things up for anyone that might be struggling with getting started with that. Maybe this process will help. A lot of people are visual learners, including myself, so process maps help me identify a lot of decisions and go through the process and help with my own workflows. So these are a great help for anyone trying to come up with some ways to get through a process. So I'll go ahead and start off here. What we'll do is start off with some shapes. And if you're not familiar with process maps, they usually have a starting and an end point. I like to just start simple. I'll have my start shape here, and then we have other flowchart or process steps here that we can go through. So once we start, what you want to do here is start by picking a topic. Then after that, you want to see, can you describe it in one sentence? So I'll make that one a little bigger here. Okay. And then from here, so I'll just start off with some connectors here. Now, is the topic easy to describe? Can you describe it in one sentence? If no, then you'll want to redefine it. Okay? So I'll add another shape down here. So I'm actually going to bring that back up here to pick a topic. So I'm going to list that here. And then I'll list this as refine topic. Okay. And then if it is easy to describe, then you'll continue. You'll go on to choose a format. Okay, so this is going to be where you're going to decide how your episodes will work. Are they going to be solo, maybe an interview, maybe it's co-hosted, things like that. And things with picking your topic, this is I'll circle back to this one. You just want to pick a topic that's what's your podcast going to be about. It could be the overall theme of your podcast. It could just be an episode of your podcast. So you want to keep it narrow and specific here in your pick a topic area. Okay, so if it is easy to describe, we'll just go over here and I'll relabel this as yes. Okay. And then after that, you want to choose a name for the podcast. Okay, so I'll add another shape here. And then you'll just name your podcast. You'll just use a clear name. Try to avoid any clever or vague titles here, just to so you don't confuse yourself or maybe your audience. So we'll name the podcast here. Okay, so here what you'll want to do is, now it's time to make a decision. Do you have a mic? Okay, and if not, you'll want to purchase one. Okay, and if you do, then you're going to want to pick a recording app. This is where you're going to use some maybe online tools. Maybe it's a program you might already have on your computer, things like that. Okay, so if you do have a mic, you'll pick the recording app. If you don't, you'll want to buy one. And then once you buy one, you'll go ahead and move up towards picking your recording app. Next in line is going to be recording a test. Okay, so this is always good practice here. Just make sure you're comfortable with what you're saying, how you sound, things like that. Maybe we pick up on any background noise that you might want to turn off or eliminate in the background too. Okay, and then after that, let's see, does the recorded test sound clear? Okay, if it does not, you'll want to fix some settings. Or, like I said, just maybe reduce any background noise that you might hear or that you're not satisfied with. Just tweak it however you see fit or feel comfortable with. Okay, and then if it does, then you're ready to pick a podcast host. Okay, then once you're done with that, you'll go ahead and upload the episode. And once you do that, you work on your publishing. And then you're done. It's a pretty simple process. And now you have a live podcast. So we'll just connect everything here. And then once you have that process here, you'll want to start over to your next topic. Starting is always the hardest part here, but once you have a clear workflow and something you're comfortable with, you'll be able to make these podcasts a lot smoother next time. So now let's make this map just a little more eye-pleasing. We'll go ahead and add some colors here. So for my process steps here, I'm going to go with a teal color, because I think that instills some confidence here. And if you're wondering what map tool I'm using here, this is a Lucidchart. I'm a big fan of this tool. I think it's great. Right now I'm just using the free version, but if you guys enjoy these videos, then I may consider getting the full subscription. I'll probably use some other tools here in the future, just see what other free options are out there, and just get a feel for those tools as well, and just see where that takes me. So I'm going to choose maybe a purple. Oops. Okay, and that just means purple is a pretty thoughtful color, so these are pretty impactful decisions here, so just want to take some time and just make sure we're thinking through those. And I think purple is a pretty inspiring color for that. Now, your pain points here, I want to use maybe a light orange or an amber, just to call out some attention for some pain points. Just not use a lot of stress. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight some pain points here that I'll talk about here briefly. So I think picking a topic is a pretty big pain point for quite a few people. Just increase the line there. And let's see, maybe naming the podcast. Maybe buying a mic. Maybe picking the recording app. Recording a test, that can be quite painful. You could run into multiple scenarios where you might need to re-record that test. Let's see, and then we have maybe picking a podcast host. Uploading your podcast episode. That could be a pretty big pain point. You might run into some technical difficulties there. Okay. So again, choosing a topic could be a pretty big pain point for a lot of users. What if no one cares? What if it's not interesting? Things like that. So you don't want to get too caught up in any of that. Pick something you're comfortable talking about and just go with it. Naming the podcast. This is kind of where you might run into maybe some perfection paralysis, things like that. Just getting started is a big leap for a lot of people, but once you work through these process maps and you start to identify some of these pain points, that helps alleviate some of the stress that a lot of users run into. Okay, and then buying a US microphone. What if you buy the wrong one? What if you buy something you're not used to seeing other people use? What if you have to learn it? Those are all questions that a lot of people kind of run into when they're trying to pick equipment. You might want to just look for some reviews and maybe just find the cheapest option and get started with it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You might be able to take it back, get a new one, things like that. There's some flexibility, I think, there. You might be able to borrow one. Maybe you have one from work, or maybe just there's a lot of USB mic options out there. I wouldn't get hung up on that, but again, that can be a pain point for some. Okay, then you might have some anxiety with your recording. Overall, just picking the recording app, that might run into some anxiety. You're not sure if you have the right one. Like I said, you can always test out different options. The one I'm using right now is actually part of the video software that I'm using right now. So that's a big help. A lot of computers come with voice recorder apps already installed. You can get some from one of the app stores. You could do some quick review searches and see what people are using, and don't be afraid to explore. Okay, and then here also just recording your test, you might run into some voice anxiety. You might not be satisfied with how you sound, or again, maybe there's something going on in the background that you might want to wait to record later on. Then picking a podcast host right here, there's a lot of different platforms out there. So again, just maybe do some research, see what settings you're comfortable with. You could go on to Google, do an image search for that platform, and get a kind of behind the scenes look on the way the dashboard and the user interface is set up based on those images, and see if there's one out there that you're comfortable with. A lot of people are visual learners, and so maybe just seeing an image of what that tool might look like might help relieve that anxiety. And then uploading your episode. A lot of times that can be confusing because you're not sure how to upload it correctly, what labels you might want to put on that. It's not too difficult to upload an episode, but again, if you're not too familiar or comfortable with the podcast hosting tool, then you might run into some confusion there. But again, once you get going, this is going to be pretty easy to repeat over and over. So then I want to talk about some bottleneck and process gaps within this process itself here. So a lot of times people, again, get stuck on just naming the podcast. So I'll go ahead and just add an icon here. Okay, so that could be a bottleneck. That could be a gap. Is just that's where you get stuck. So another common stuck point here is just choosing the tools that you might want to use. Like your microphone. Let's see if I can add an icon to both here. Yep. Okay, so these are common stuck points or sticking points. Choosing the tools. Maybe fear before recording your first test. Okay, and then maybe some anxiety with fixing your settings. Maybe again, just not feeling confident in the tool you're using here. And then also possibly your description. Maybe just writing a short description. You might want to use some writing tools. AI these days is really great for helping coming up with scripts if you're into that. If you need some help there. I wouldn't lean too heavily on it, but maybe come up with a rough draft of your script and then plug that into an AI tool and see how it can make it a little more robust for you. A lot of these AI tools these days are great enablers for creative type people, and they kind of help do a lot of the thinking that you might miss. Maybe some hidden or assumed steps that you might not be thinking of. They're a great way to help fill that gap if you're a creative person. Okay, and then some delays might happen when you're waiting on a USB mic if you ordered it online, or things like that. So that could cause a delay, but I wouldn't get too hung up on that here. And then also maybe your podcast host, and when you upload your episode, you might have some delays here, just waiting for approval for the episode. Okay, so here, what I will do actually, I just want to color this green. Start. I'm going to make this a little gray with some white text. So that's essentially what our process looks like. It's pretty straightforward. You want to start, obviously, pick a topic, find a topic that's easy to describe, choose the format that you're going to go with. Maybe it's just audio, video, things like that, maybe live even. You want to find a name for your podcast. Do you have the right equipment? You always want to make sure you test it there. And does it sound clear? Fix some settings. And then once you're ready to get that going, then you're going to get into your podcast, okay? And then publish everything and then end up with a live podcast that you can look back on and be proud of the work that you accomplished. Now, some process improvements and maybe some optimization ideas to go here. Some quick wins would be to, start with one test episode only. See how you did. See how your audience feels you did. Get some feedback from your audience. Always just kind of jump in and see where that leads you. You might have a microphone on your laptop already or on your computer. Maybe you already have a microphone on your webcam. There's a lot of flexibility with some tools that a lot of people already have access to. So don't be afraid to kind of get familiar with what you might already have before you go out and spend some money on something that you may not need. Okay, and then just choose one hosting platform and just start off with that and maybe ignore the rest for now. It's always a great way. Again, just get started. See if that worked to begin with. If not, move on to the next opportunity. Okay, and then maybe some high impact improvements would be combining some steps here just to make this workflow just seem a little less strenuous here. And it's a pretty simple process, but you could always just picking a topic and choosing a format, making that one decision here. Pick a topic and choose the format. Are they both easy to describe? Then you can move on to the next step here. You can have a pre-written episode description template with your, whenever you want to describe these podcasts, make things easier for yourself. When you're going through these, the template is a great idea to figure out what worked for you and just to repeat that success. Try and find ways to repeat these steps and make them as easy for yourself as possible, and templates are a great way to do that. And then we'll go into maybe some beginner versus some advanced workflow here. Maybe a beginner might go with just one episode, one microphone, one platform. But your advanced users may record batch episodes. You might just be in the zone and record show after show after show, and then you just get to editing after that. Look at some maybe channel analytics, and then think of some branding for your episodes. Okay, so let's think about how much time this might actually take to complete. If you hit the ground running, you have a lot of gear already owned, you're already familiar with a lot of tools that you might have access to, you could be on the fast path, and starting your own podcast could take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. If you're waiting on gear, you maybe run into some decision making, some indecision, so to speak. You might be on the slow path. You might want to wait 2 to 5 days. You might need to wait 2 to 5 days. If it's, again, just waiting on gear, maybe you just bought a new computer, things like that. And in the meantime, I would encourage you, if you're waiting on gear or waiting on something that's just totally out of your control, take that opportunity to work on some of the other stressful topics here. Maybe the topics, maybe the podcast name, Figure out which podcast host you want to use. Maybe just watch some YouTube video tutorials on how to use these podcast tools, things like that. So, again, that might take a few days if you're waiting for some things, again, that are outside of your control, but don't be afraid to still get started and make that transition a little easier for yourself once you do get that equipment in. So, I hope you enjoyed this process building with me. I'm going to continue making these videos. I have a plethora of topics that I'll be covering. Hopefully it's a topic that you're interested in seeing. Maybe it's a topic or a process that you might be struggling with. A lot of people enjoy just looking at process maps. I enjoy building them myself. And so I'll continue to do this. And if you guys enjoy them, I'll venture into maybe some other tools. I'll add some more here and maybe just show you what else these process map tools are capable of doing. There's a lot of really fun things you can do with some layers that you can kind of hover over or toggle some of these process steps. And what I like to do is use a layer for maybe a sub process or something that calls out steps on actually how to do that. If it's buying a microphone here, like I said, maybe I click on that and the layer shows all the different types of options that I might have or that might be available in that, or what you might go through on purchasing a microphone. So again, if you did enjoy this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if there's anything maybe I missed here that you think could improve this process, I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and enter it down in the comments below. That might help someone else also. And I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.